This is U.S. Army and Vietnam veteran Ken McConnell, and on behalf of MilitaryBandsman I want to welcome you to our podcast for May 2014. This is the latest in a series of monthly broadcasts, reviewing the prior month's activities on our website, www.MilitaryBandsman.com. We also want to share current events and band news, as well as reunion dates and future military band performances. Do any of you remember the United States Armed Forces Bicentennial Band? Details at the end of the broadcast. Before we get started, I'd like to share a little information about myself. I was in the United States Army's 1st Air Cavalry Division, assigned to the admin company as a combat photographer, and deployed to Vietnam in 1965. Later in civilian life, I was an announcer for a number of radio stations, and I worked as a TV reporter. And I'm proud to contribute to these broadcasts honoring our veteran military musicians. 5 new bands were added to our rosters in May. The U.S. Navy's ComCar Division 1, Band of San Diego, the Naval Unit Band 11, stationed at Naval Station Guam, the Navy District 17 Band, stationed at Naval Station Kodiak, Alaska, the United States Air Force Pipe Band, attached to the United States Air Force Drum Corps at Robins Air Force Base, Georgia, and the U.S. Navy Yard Band, or Navy Band Brooklyn, stationed at Building 92, U.S. Navy Yard Band, Brooklyn, New York. Let's get started by reviewing our new members for May 2014. Please welcome Michael Thomas, U.S. Army French horn player; Clyde C.T. Bailey, U.S. Air Force clarinet and saxophone player; John Hendricks, U.S. Army trumpet player; David Magel, U.S. Air Force percussionist; Bob Knowles, U.S. Army saxophone player; Karen Severson, U.S. Army percussionist, guitar, bass, and French horn player; Thomas Rowland, U.S. Air Force French horn player; Keith Cooper, U.S. Army saxophone and flute player; Elizabeth Walker, U.S. Air Force flute player; George C.G. Hughes, U.S. Navy trumpet player; Robert Anderson, U.S. Army baritone player; Jeff Seamus, U.S. Army French horn player; Frank Felder, U.S. Navy clarinet and saxophone player; Richard Johnson, U.S. Navy trumpet and French horn player and drum major; Thomas Rowlands, U.S. Air Force French horn and bagpipe player; Efrain Guzman Villanova, U.S. Army clarinet player; James Larry Stockton, U.S. Army percussionist; and lastly, Donald Ben Mauger, U.S. Army trumpet player. The Army's 2nd Infantry Division Band's Brass Ensemble will be performing Monday, June 16th at the CRC Theater in Uijeongbu, South Korea. And the U.S. Coast Guard Dixieland Band will be playing June 22nd at the New London Waterfront Park in New London, Connecticut. Check their websites for details. Our Facebook groups have added many new members in May, and as of this broadcast, our Military Bandsman Facebook page has reached 425 likes. You can contribute to the success of these groups by interacting on their pages, and be sure to click the like button. Our weekly updated feature, The Back of the Bus, The Life and Times of Military Musicians, is presented by veteran Air Force musician Fred Robinson, as he shares excerpts from his book series written by veteran musicians for veteran musicians. Enjoy reading The Back of the Bus by clicking on the buses on our homepage, www.MilitaryBandsman.com. For those of you who don't remember the United States Armed Forces Bicentennial Band, it was a 67-member band accompanying a 24-voice chorus. The group was composed of members of all branches of the military. Headquartered at Fort Meade, Maryland, the Bicentennial Band existed from March 1975 until December 1976, and was under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Hal Gibson. Here's a salute to all military musicians, past, present, and future, and to all of the veterans that have served our country in the United States Armed Forces. This is U.S. Army and Vietnam veteran Ken McConnell, and on behalf of MilitaryBandsman.com, we hope you've enjoyed this broadcast.